Hey everyone, welcome back. Sorry if the video is a little dark. It's getting pretty late here and I'm trying to get this done as quickly as possible. So just a quick update on your September fishing report. The lower Kern River right now is pretty much the same as the last time I reported. So I'm going to throw that link up here and you can check that out. About the only thing that's really changing is, we're going from anywhere between 3,000 CFS, 3,500 CFS. It may start to go a little bit lower, but it's still running pretty fast. Now, looking at Lake Isabella, we were sitting right at 97% in the last report, and now we're at about 85%. So those levels, those rates of drop, a whole bunch of different things heading into this are kind of making the bass fishing just a little bit tough. There are reports of bass coming out of South Lake. I've seen topwater action early in the mornings, late at night. I've seen spinner baits doing pretty well. Stick baits doing good. That was about it. Crappie, probably a little bit better than bass right now, but again, just out there jigging around structures and more of the same old, same old. Trout have, kind of gone away. It got hot. The water levels changing. Any trout in the lake are going to be really deep. You can still get them, but they're going to be way down there, and I don't know if it's worth the time to put in to go after those. Catfish still doing pretty well. Camp 9, South Lake, up by the dam. French Gulch has actually turned into a really good place for catfish. Nothing of real size coming out, about 14, 15 inches, but there seem to be a ton of them at times that come swimming through there. So give that a try. Dip baits, cut baits. I'm a big fan of like the triple S stuff, and just good luck out there. So the upper Kern River is really starting to get fishable. It was getting really nice and clear, and then a tropical storm came in, washed a whole bunch more stuff down. The levels got all crazy for a day or so, and now everything's back down. So the levels were pretty high this last week, but now they're finally coming down. It's getting fishable. The water bank edges along the river are finally getting down out of those strainers that are so hard to get through, to get out there to get a rod in the water. So keep that in mind. Still fast waters, dangerous conditions, but definitely doable. The water is super clear. The fish are hanging around in kind of protected areas, so big boulders, those big old washouts, nice big pocket water, big deep runs with boulders in the middle. So that's kind of what you're looking for. If you can still get up in some of those areas where the campgrounds or there's trees close to the water, you can get those big deep undercuts. Get out there, you get up underneath them, you might hook it into something really nice. They've been stocking again, and that seems to be bi-weekly. So they stocked at the end of August, and then they'll probably stock in the middle of September, and then probably towards the end of September one more time. So if you're looking at techniques and baits, I'm going to break this down into two parts. So if we're looking at fly fishing, dry fly action has been kind of non-existent. There are times I've been up there and seeing fish feeding up around the edges, or over in shade or some overhangs and different things like that. But any hatch that I've been a part of has only lasted for maybe 30, 45 minutes, and there's really no schedule to it yet. So I imagine as the days start to get a little bit cooler, which is going to start happening this week, those hatches should become a little bit more consistent, and so you might start throwing some of those dries. And they're just your typical dries. There's nothing any really special right now. Those caddis flies, those parachute atoms, those really buggy looking patterns that float high up on the water. Hopper droppers, I've seen a few reports of people catching fish on hoppers. It is hot. There are hoppers, so you might give that one a try. The best way that I have found for fishing though right now is either Euro nymphing or tight lining some of those deep pools. Like I said, you've got those big protected pockets of water, and that's where the fish are hanging out. And those pockets of water, they're probably 7-8 feet deep at times, and so you've got to get that nymph down there. I like to fish right now like an emerging pattern. Hare's ear has been pretty good. Copper John, Prince nymph. Just get out there, turn over some rocks, and everything right now is kind of looking hare's ears-ish. So those are the nymphs that I'm going with. Now, that does not put out like your zebra midges or your Perdigons or your Frenchies. I'm a big fan of Perdigons. I'm a big fan of Frenchies. And sometimes it takes just a little bit of that flash underneath that water to get the fish moving. Like I said, the water is super clear. So when the sunlight's hitting the water, there's a lot of action going on up underneath. Now, as far as bait goes, right, you've heard me say it a dozen times. If you watch any of my videos, salmon eggs, right? Salmon eggs, salmon eggs, salmon eggs. I am going to do a bait video here probably in the next couple weeks. I'm going to come out with some techniques, show you how to rig those up, get ready for the fall season, get ready for winter, chasing those stalkers or whatever you're going after. The second best thing that I do whenever I get tired of fishing salmon eggs, or if I don't want to go home smelling like salmon eggs, I love to take a mice tail, right? You cut the ball off the top and rig that up on a nice jig head, and just kind of no other weights or anything, just jig it through those big runs and those holes, kind of skip it over rocks and things, and you'll pick up a lot of fish that way. Night crawlers floated under a bobber, if you want to run those out there with a spinning reel, get into some of those things, you might do pretty well with that. Power bait, I'm not a big fan of power bait, but power bait works. It's just a little bit harder fishing it through those runs because your power bait's going to want to float and your weights are going to want to sink, and they just tend to kind of get hung up and get stuck under rocks and things. Also with that power bait, you don't always get the best hook sets, and the fish have to really swallow that down there in order to hook them. Now, if you're fishing for food, by all means, hook them, catch them, keep them. But if you're looking at releasing those, power bait kind of isn't really the way to go. I do have a video on how to fish salmon eggs where you can let them go if you'd like. You can check that out up here as well. Now, I do want to add this. I've done really well with like the Rapala lures or trout imitations, baby trout imitations. There are some browns up there, and the browns are going to start spawning here pretty soon, so those trout imitations might do pretty well. The runs now are deep enough to fish those, but I don't know how long it's going to last. The water conditions, the fishing locations, everything's perfect right there. Right at the put-in spots for all those rafts. So I suggest stopping at one of the tackle shops up there in Kernville, or stopping by any of the gas stations. They all sell those rafting guides and those rafting maps, and look at those put-in spots, because that's where the trout trucks are parking, and that's where they're dumping all the fish. Now, if you don't want to chase the trout trucks, which I don't like chasing the trout trucks, there's just something about the challenge of catching a Kern River rainbow. Then fish in between the campgrounds, fish in between those spots. You get any place that requires just a little bit of walking, and just walk until you run out of beer cans on the side of the river, and that's where you'll find the fish. So the less trash, the better. Now, with that being said, pick up some trash on your way out and leave it better than you found it. The wild section is really starting to become a great fishery again. The water levels are down, the stairs are back, right? You can get out there where you need to get to. I recommend going in at least a mile, mile and a half. So you get up in there, and you'll see a whole bunch of pocket water. Everything kind of levels out, and the water gets really nice and really fishy. You don't get as many people. There hasn't been a lot of people up there fishing because it has been so flooded. So you're probably going to be in those locations, and fish are going to be seeing your lure or your fly for the first time. Now, that is the only thing I ever fish up there. I throw rooster tails. If I'm spin fishing, I throw those Rapalas that I was talking about earlier. But most of the time, I'm just fly fishing. And so again, Euro nymphing, if I'm walking way up in there, I'll carry 2 rods. I'll carry a nymphing rod, and then I'll carry my dry fly rod. You don't have to do that. You can break off and tie on a whole new setup in about 10 minutes and be ready to go. But that's just me. Sometimes you're there and you see it start happening, so you want to pick up another rod and go for it. So like I said earlier, those dry flies are really nothing technical right now. Just any type of fly that's landing on the water. I was up there and I was doing really well with like some gnat patterns, which was a little bit different. I don't usually fish the gnat patterns, but there were some midges coming off the water, and so I threw something that was very similar to what I was seeing, and I did really well. So you can try that. If you do have any questions during this fishing report, because I only put these out about once a month, just make sure that you reach out to me on Instagram. So just go to Instagram, type in @roadandreel, and you will find me. If you can't find me there, just Google it, @roadandreel. You'll find all my socials. All right, that's about it. So I should have more information with the next fishing report that's coming out. So make sure you subscribe so you can stay tuned to that. If you want to look back at any of my old fishing reports, they're on my channel page, or you can also find them at roadandreel.com. So if this was helpful, maybe you want to send a thanks down below and help support this channel, or maybe just hit that like button. That's perfect. So share, and thanks for all the support. And if you haven't done so yet, make sure you subscribe. All right, everybody. Thanks for watching. Like I said, sorry it's so dark in here, but I'll get this out to you. And as always, I'll catch you on the next one.